Hello everyone, my name is Natalia Rumina and today we're going to create this fruit bowl using dried strawberry and tools. So sit back, relax, and I teach you the magic of epoxy resin. Before working with resin, let me tell you how I dry everything. I using a dehydrator for vegetables, fruits, and mushrooms. Using a craft knife, I slice everything into pieces no thicker than 2 millimeters. Otherwise, drying takes too long and resin consumption increases during pouring. I line the dehydrator trays with parchment paper and place the strawberries slices or wherever I want to dry on top. When I choosing a dehydrator, make sure it has a timer, temperature control, and fine mesh trays to prevent small pieces from falling through. I dry at 55 degrees for 6 hours. Now let's start preparing the dish. First, clean the silicone mold carefully with the tape to remove dust without scratching them. I've been working with liquid resin from Resin Pro. It's called transparent, and I have promo code for 10% discount, Natirum. But right now, I'm creating a base for the composition of flowers and strawberry. Pro tip: before placing everything in resin, arrange your composition the way you like. Use no more than 3 shades for a balanced look and take a photo for the best version. This will make it easier to lay everything out in the mold later. For this who follow me, you already know any resin pour with embedded elements should be done in layers. First, pour a thin layer of resin, place your composition on it, let it cure, and only then continue adding layers. Otherwise, everything will float to the surface. Once you arrange the composition, let everything cure completely before creating the final serving effect with epoxy resin. Now let's make the liquid resin. I've explained the coloring process using a large mold, pomegranate, as one example. I set aside 35 grams of resin for the semicircle of the large pomegranate and tint it with the 9 drops of white pigment. Then I set aside 25 grams and tint it with 4 drops of red pigment and 3 drops of white pigment. Be careful here. This semicircle should be translucent, not opaque. I spreaded it all out using clear resin, poured into small mold as well, and leave it to cure. Important, guys, always check the humidity in the room. Liquid resin is especially sensitive to draft and cold. Once everything has hardened, we need to finish the backside and remove any protruding flowers. I mix a small amount of liquid resin to coat the back, ensuring it stays perfectly clear since I have transparent section and this should be any bubbles. I leave the mixed resin near a warm spot so it gains the right viscosity. This is crucial for the final coating. Meanwhile, I use a 200 grit sanding disc to smooth out any uneven areas. And I remove all dust and do a wet cleaning to ensure nothing falls onto the final finish with resin. Then I degrease the surface with an alcoholic wipe. Once the resin thickness to a tea temperature and honey-like consistency, I start apply the final coat. I place the dish on small cups. Just make sure not to use thin plastic ones as they might be and cause the final to run off. I pour a small amount of resin into the center and observe how it moves. If the spritz too quickly, it's not ready yet. If the flows smoothly, we can continue. Don't skimp to the final coat, or you end up with craters. Spread it evenly across the surface. As the resin thickness ever more, I take small drops and apply it to the edges. As the resin thickens even more, I take small drops and apply it to the edges. As the resin tends to pour down toward the center and may leave the exposed, then I let it cure. For the front side, we do the same process, just make sure the resin is fully cured to avoid fingerprints. When sanding the back side, I always sanded the front in preparation of a medium viscosity resin. It's called Art Pro from Resin Pro Top Coat, where I've be added stones and glitter. Don't rush to place the stones immediately after applying the final coat, or the finish will run. Wait until the resin thickness a bit more. Once everything is set, I use a heat gun to gently shape the dish. If you are a beginner, you can soften the resin by placing it in hot water for 10 minutes before being it, but be careful. For drilling, choose a bit no larger than the screw of your strings. Drill carefully, assemble the whole composition, and be proud of yourself. Look how amazing it's turned out. If you have any question, don't hesitate to ask. And if you want even more useful tips on making tables, paintings, and clocks with the theory, stories, links, and tutorials, I have a private chat on Telegram. Write me if you want to join, please. And if you want more tutorials and lesson on my learning, you can find it on my learning platform, Patreon. Have a nice day. Bye.